Rosemary Pacenti is 64 years old and has called Co-op City home since 1972. Never married, Pacenti lives alone on the 23rd floor of a high-rise. On January 5th, 1997, a neighbor notices Rosemary's lights have burned through the night. Unable to reach Rosemary by phone, the woman heads over to her apartment. When she gets there, the friend finds Rosemary's door already open.
She walked inside the apartment and she called for a friend, but there was no answer. After looking around the apartment, and she noticed the kitchen area, and she noticed Miss Scott, the victim of a crime.
Rosemary Pacenti lies on the kitchen floor, dead, a knife still lodged in her back.
I noticed maybe 20, 25 stab wounds in the back, in the neck area, 1 or 2 in the head, and it looked like she had been involved in a struggle with someone. I also noted some defensive wounds to her right hand, so she struggled with the perpetrator.
In the hallways outside the apartment, forensics finds further evidence Pacenti fought with her attacker and perhaps hurt whoever killed her. A smear of blood on the wall at the elevator, and 13 floors down from Pacenti's apartment, a few spots inside a stairwell. The blood trail gives detectives a glimpse of how the killer may have made good an escape, first trying the elevator, then quickly heading for the stairs. Still, they have no idea as to who he or she might be. Meanwhile, back inside the apartment, the knife used to kill Rosemary Pacenti is matched to a set in her own kitchen, telling detectives this was probably not a premeditated murder, but one that happened in the moment. Police believe that the blood samples collected in the building belong to their killer, but have no clue as to who that person might be. Meanwhile, a fresh crop of murders finds its way to New York Homicide's front door. And the investigation into Rosemary Pacenti's murder goes cold. In May of 1999, NYPD detective Kevin Lawler is assigned to the cold case squad.
I requested that the blood recovered from the crime scene entered into the CODA system to be compared to any blood samples or any known subjects that were arrested that had supplied their DNA samples.
In August of 2001, Kevin Lawler gets a phone call from the NYPD crime lab. It's a call regarding the Pacenti case, a call Lawler has been hoping for.
I was informed that a match was made with the blood recovered from the crime scene with a subject by the name of Charles Jones.
Charles Jones' DNA matches blood found in Pacenti's hallway and the stairwell of her building. The genetic link places Jones in the victim's building at the time of the murder, but not in her apartment. Lawler needs more and decides to find out all he can about Charles Jones.
I did a background check on him. I found out his priors, which were lengthy. I also found out that he had just been released from prison on a past robbery where he assaulted his victim with a knife. And he was out and about, walking the streets of the Bronx.
At the time Rosemary Pacenti was murdered, Charles Jones lived in Co-op City, a couple of blocks from the victim, further tightening the evidentiary noose around Jones' neck.
We tried to track this individual down to his parole officer. We found out that he had a warrant on him. And so our game plan at that point was to try to pick him up and talk to him.
We went to his apartment. I was informed that he wasn't home, that they didn't know where he was. The family was covering for him, just the mere fact that I was a police officer.
Going up.
So I left my business card with the family to have Mr. Jones contact me.
Lawler and Tebbins don't want to tip their hand about the Pacenti murder. Instead, they leave a message for Jones. They want to talk to him about an outstanding traffic violation. 2 days later, Jones rings up the precinct.
We had him think that he was being arrested for an outstanding warrant for a traffic violation. We brought him into the precinct. And at first, we sat him down in our office. We gave him lunch. We brought him a soda. We had him relaxed. We became buddies with him, so to speak.
The approach to Jones is careful. The problem for detectives, all of the suspect's blood was found outside the victim's apartment, leaving a large hole in their theory of murder.
My theory was that the person involved with this homicide came into the building with the intent to rob somebody, looking for an opportunity to push into someone's apartment.
There was quite a bit of distance between that blood and the crime scene. So you have to establish how his blood got to that 5th floor hallway.
Detectives want to lock Jones into a story regarding Pesenti's building at 140 Alcott Place, and then grind away at its credibility. After a half hour of niceties, the process begins.
And when I asked him if he had ever been in 140 Alcott Place, he told me that he was never in the building, that he had no need to be in that building. So with that, now I know he's lying to me.
Detectives tell Jones they already have his blood inside Pesenti's building. With that bit of information, Jones shifts gears and changes his story.
He looks at me and he says, well, I used to deliver groceries. And one time when I was delivering groceries, I had cut my hand on one of the shopping carts. And maybe that time was when my blood was left in the building. Then I went on to tell him that, well, why is it that your blood was found in the building the same time this woman is murdered in the building? I said, can you explain that to me? And he sat back and looked at me, put his head down, and stayed silent for a good period of time.
Lawler pulls out crime scene photos. Images of a 64-year-old woman dead on her kitchen floor.
And he still wouldn't look at the pictures right away. He just kept his head down, he was looking at the floor. And then finally he looked up and started looking at the photos that I was showing him of the victim, which weren't nice. Then I went on to say, well, you know what, I'm gonna charge you with this homicide. He's giving me no response.
The questioning continues for 8 hours, until finally the suspect caves and decides to cut a deal.
He sits back, starts looking through the photos again. And he says, well, you have to guarantee me I can get a straight 8.
A straight 8. Street talk for a plea bargain. 8 years in prison for a full confession.
I told him, I can't guarantee you're gonna get a straight 8. I said, again, I'll tell you, I'll speak to the DA. I said, you know, whatever you and your lawyer work out with the district attorney's office is out of my hands. With that, Mr. Jones decided to tell me the whole story.
I opened the door, went inside. She seen me, she panicked. I'm trying to tell her I'm delivering her groceries. She grabbed a knife and I stabbed in her back, trying to protect myself.
According to Jones, the murder was a grocery delivery gone wrong, with Jones acting in self-defense. At the time of the murder, the suspect was 23 years old and almost 6 feet tall. Rosemary Pesenti, 64 and 5'4". She was stabbed 39 times, 8 of those wounds being in the back. Given the physical evidence, cold case detectives find Jones' story of self-defense hard to fathom.
Basically, he's, how can I put it, hunting at random. This was a victim of chance. When Mrs. Pesenti confronted Mr. Jones, it appears that she went to her kitchen drawer and pulled out a knife to defend herself from this unknown person who had just entered her apartment. A struggle ensued where Mr. Jones took the knife from Mrs. Pesenti and repeatedly stabbed her about her body, also cutting her throat. After that, Mr. Jones said he just left the apartment, taking a few items. That was it.
On a morning in the Bronx, 29-year-old Charles Jones decides a murder trial with a possible death penalty as its going-away prize is not in his best interest. Jones pleads guilty to a charge of first-degree manslaughter and pulls a term of 19 years.